All right, everybody. So welcome to the second installment, BMV BBQ. Well, third episode actually. I got my second guest here, Ace Lovelace. So BMV BBQ is a podcast in which I intend to connect with local philanthropists, entrepreneurs, and creatives. Just talk personal, professional life over a plate of Kansas City barbecue. I think, breaking bread and sharing food with somebody is the best way to make some progress in a conversation. That's why I'm here today. Also want to know about what you do. Hey, so Ace has got you're playing a part in a play, right? Oliver, coming out January 20th through the 30th. As well, he just got signed on. What'd you get? You got a grant?
Grant sponsorship.
He got a grant sponsorship. They got a grant sponsorship for Crying Out Loud is the name of this play, right? Mm-hmm. It's to be announced. The dates on those are to be announced sometime at the end of summer, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Ace, now that that's out of the way, let's just get into the conversation, man.
Okay.
What I'm curious to know about you, just right off the bat, I want to know your story. Like, how'd you grow up? What got you into acting and screenplays and writing? There you go.
Well, it started off, I'd say the earliest thing that I remember is being in a production at the church that I was being raised at, basically.
Okay.
Which was called The Promise. And my dad played Peter, and it was a story of the Passion of the Christ. And I was in just like 2 seconds of it, and all I had to do was call the other kids over, and the audience thought I was so cute, and I think that's when I fell in love with acting, because I was getting the response that I wanted.
Yeah.
Because I'm a little bit of a attention-seeking.
You like the attention on you?
I love the attention on me.
Yeah.
So yeah, but then after that, my neighbors asked if I'd come perform at their church and sing a song, and that's when I could finally tell them, oh, I can sing as well.
Okay.
And so yeah. So that's how it started. My family, lots of artists, lots of singers in my family. When it comes to the whole performing thing, I'd say my dad has the most influence when it comes to that. He's only been in a few shows, and that's usually because he's on a show with me.
Okay.
But my dad influenced me a lot because of his playing of Peter.
Cool.
In The Promise.
What were you?
I was one of the little kids. When Jesus is talking about, one of the disciples says, children leave, and then Jesus says something along the lines of, no, children come and you stay. And so Jesus picked me up, and then I motioned for all the little kids to come over, so all the kids came running over.
Okay.
And I was the one that motioned them to come over, and I was being held by Jesus.
That was super attractive.
Oh, yeah. Jesus was a hottie.
Jesus was a hottie.
That's funny, dude. That's funny. Okay, so, what do you like more? Do you like singing or do you like acting more?
Definitely acting.
Okay. Do you like writing or acting more?
Acting.
So you're an actor through and through, you'd say?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It came the most naturally to me.
Okay. Interesting. What parts do you like to play?
Usually what happens is I end up playing the person who dies, the person that at some point something really sad happens. I end up playing those parts the most. And I enjoy those parts because they're not easy to play.
Okay.
But at the same time, they're lots of fun. And getting people nice and emotional by the end of the show that means that you did your job if people feel bad for you. So it's just kind of a confirmation that I've done something correct.
Yeah, and do you like? This is about bringing out the emotion of the audience. Do you what do you like so much about being influential in people's emotions? What is being conveyed through that you find enjoyable?
Well, acting really is storytelling, and that's what I love about it, is that we're telling stories. And what makes me excited about it is that we force, basically, once you get into that theater and they turn the lights down and you're sitting there, you are kind of forced to empathize because you find a character that you really like, you want them to succeed, and you're putting yourself in their shoes because you want them to win. And there's something about having it happen live right in front of you that's different than seeing it in cinema. And so when you're acting, you are kind of have this relationship with the audience, and you really want them to grasp on to what you are telling, which is somebody else's story, because you're literally empathizing. You're putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. And so, yeah.
Nice. I've never heard that before. So live is different than cinema.
Live is way different than cinema, because live you can hear the breathing, you can hear everything that's going on. Usually the emotions are felt more thoroughly. Film is way different acting than stage acting. Film is a lot more subtle. Film is a lot more nuanced. When it comes to being on stage, you have to fill a whole room. So if you're on the Kaufman stage, you have to speak loud. You have to do things that are bigger so that the people in the very back row can see what you're trying to convey.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Yes, and so with film, everything, the camera's right next to your face. You can't do a whole bunch of emoting, because if you emote too much, then there's too much movement, too much facials, too much extra.
Okay.
So you'll notice, like in film, if you start watching film, see how they hold their face, just kind of what's going on with their face, especially in serious things. There's not a lot of movement that's going on. There's not a lot of head turning, not a lot of that, because the camera's right on them. So it's just different.
That's very, very interesting. I've never noticed that at all. I don't watch movies too much, but I've never paid attention to anything like that.
It's very interesting, the difference between the two.
So you guys kind of have to be like super emotive in live stage plays versus, or do you have to be?
You don't have to be. Sometimes it depends on your audience. It depends on the show. So if you're doing a more intimate play with a smaller audience, then the emoting kind of comes down a little bit, and you feel things kind of inside more, and you don't have to do the far-reaching stuff. You can keep it all pretty normal and intimate when it comes to that. It's only when there's like a large, like being on the Starlight stage, when there's everybody there.
Gotcha.
It's not like a huge, you don't have to be huge about it, but it's just got to be able to be noticed from further away.
Okay.
That's kind of what you're doing.
Okay.
Very interesting. Do you, I mean, you only get one shot. When you're live on a stage play, you only get one shot, right?
A night, yeah.
So you got to get it basically 100% perfect.
Yes.
Like in one take.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the hardest part about it.
Yeah, it sounds tough. Jeez.
It's
Pull the mic a little closer.
it is difficult, but it's totally possible, because you can mess up in theater and everything's fine, as long as you know how to put yourself together. So if I flub a line, I've been in multiple shows when I've completely messed up my lines.
Okay.
And had to gather myself back up and create something that fixes that, while doing something like trying not to start cracking up because I just messed up my line so bad.
Yeah.
I've been in shows when I've had to use accents and I just completely lose my accent or a different accent comes out. And I was in a show at the Coterie once, and it was about the sit-ins in South Carolina, and it's about the sit-ins during the Civil Rights era. And I played a character that something super racist happens to me, and it's supposed to be a thing that's supposed to like make everybody be like, wow, that was really horrible. But when I said my line, instead of a South Carolinian accent, it was super British. And so the person, he just spat on me like in my face, and then I'm supposed to like look at the audience and be like, and I can't say nothing. But I was like, and I can't say nothing.
It just came out?
Just came out so wrong. And I walked backstage and someone was like, well, hello there, governor. Just making fun of me. So things like that happen all the time. You can mess up. And,
you didn't break? When you did that?
I almost did because of my scene partner, his face, when he said it, he was kind of like, what are you doing? He kind of put his head to the side like, what was that?
Okay.
And so that was hard for me to keep it, but I kept it together.
Nice.
So, did the audience notice? I don't know.
Okay. Well, you know, one person was out there like, that ain't right.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So
that's theater, right?
That's theater. That's the fun part about it, is that it is live, and sometimes you'll mess something up so bad, but you just have to continue on with the show and try to hold your character as much as you possibly can. You're human, so some things happen and you'll have a response to it, but you just have to be professional enough to keep yourself together so that you can continue on telling the story.
Okay. Now, when you're getting ready for a role, I've heard things like method acting. That's the main one where you you live as the character. There's another type. I'm not sure. I can't really remember what it is. Would you know what the other side of it is?
No, I don't believe in any of that.
Really?
I think method acting is really dangerous.
Why?
Because you are becoming another person, so it becomes an alter ego, and alter egos are dangerous things. And you have no control over what happens in this person's life. And it's all written down on a page for you. So when you method act, what you're doing is something that's impossible, and you're expecting to get some result out of it. It's like when you think about Heath Ledger, like he was trying to get into the character and everything like that, and he ended up dead because he was method acting, and method acting is completely unnecessary. If you can be in the moment with your acting, it doesn't matter anything else. Everything has to do with where you are in the moment, how much you believe it. You don't have to do all the extra stuff. You do your research, of course, but method acting is like a little, it's like if I were to have to go on stage and my character's out of breath because he was running, method acting would be that I run laps around so that I'm actually out of breath and then go on stage and I'm breathing hard, when really I can just go on stage without running and make it believable that I'm out of breath. It's I think more mature actors have the other way about going around it than the method thing. Method, yeah, it's dangerous.
Okay, that's really interesting. I know I think Shia LaBeouf was a method actor, or is a method actor, I'm not sure. I've heard him talk about that. And I always thought, I've never heard that perspective, because I always thought like, wow, that's real dedication. You're actually becoming this person. But I see what you're saying, like, as long as you're in the moment and you believe who you are, Yeah, why would you have to do anything else?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Like for instance, Shia, when he was in a movie, he was in the army, and they were in a tank. Well, he refused to take a shower while they were doing it forever, so everybody else had to smell him.
That's disgusting.
I know, but his acting wasn't any better than anybody else's.
Because he smelled.
But he just smelled, so he made it not fun for anybody that was performing with him. It just kind of wasn't necessary.
Yeah, and that's Jared Leto when he would when he was doing his Suicide Squad Joker, like sending just nasty stuff to his coach. Why would you do that, bro? Like, I guess I see exactly what you're saying, because that seems just so unbelievably unnecessary.
It's necessary, yeah.
Okay, geez, man. Thanks for that take.
Yeah.
The other side of the spectrum right there. Now, would you say you're a good singer?
I was better when I was younger. But yeah, I can still sing.
Okay.
If I have a little bit of liquid, I don't drink anymore, but when I do have liquid courage, I can sing really well.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Word. Do you like to do musicals? Like, let me ask this, is every play a musical?
No.
No?
So there's plays, and there are musicals. Musicals are anything that the story is told through singing.
Mm-hmm.
It used to not be that way a musical was, just big song and dance numbers and then the acting in between. Now a musical now is a story is being told through the music that continues on to the next scene. So
Gotcha.
A lot of times a discovery is made in the middle of a song, or a new level is reached in the middle of a song.
Okay.
With a play, it's not there. There can be music in a play, but there's normally not singing. Or if there's dancing, it's not like the main focus, unless it's a show where the people are dancers. It's a little bit more literal that way. For the most part, but sometimes there's dancing in plays, sometimes. But, yeah, musical theater and I have a relationship. I'm not the biggest fan of musical theater. I think that there are some great musicals. I just have a bad relationship with it because of my type. I'm a short, skinny black man. When you are in professional productions like in New York, it's way better to be about 5'7" through 6'4", 6'5".
Okay.
And I'm not 5'7". And so on cruise ships, I can't be a dancer on cruise ships because I'm too short. Because what they do is that they cast based on the costume that they already have. So they don't make new costumes for people when they come in. You have to fit into the old costume.
Wow.
Yeah, so because I'm so short, I don't fit in anybody's costumes. And I think that's complete bullcrap.
Yeah, it does sound a little whack. Just, it should be off like, if you're better than everybody else, just make a new costume, right?
Right, but it's expensive. It's expensive.
Is it?
Everything on Broadway is super expensive.
Well, what about in these local Kansas City shows?
They don't do a whole lot of musicals here. There's a few places that does musicals, and I've done musicals there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't normally do musicals because I used to love singing, but I don't love singing so much anymore.
Fair enough.
And my type, I don't fit a lot of roles well, because I normally wouldn't play the love interest because I'm short. I wouldn't normally play I wouldn't play a lot of characters in it.
Mm-hmm.
When I was working with the Broadway Artists Alliance in New York, they'd always ask us, so what's your dream role? And I had no answer for it because I'm like, I don't know, what would anybody cast me in? There's not a lot of roles except for seaweed and hairspray, but I think that show's racist, so
Really?
I don't participate in that show.
Is that one show, Seaweed and Hairspray?
Yeah, Hairspray is the name of the show. Seaweed's the character.
Oh, okay.
He's a black guy, young black guy, and I think it's lame, so
Okay.
I don't participate in that shit.
Jesus. That's fucked up.
Yeah, it's fine. But that's musical theater. Plays are a little bit more interesting to me because you have to hold an audience attention for longer. It's much harder to do than a musical. I think maybe not physically or vocally, but when it comes to engaging people, it's so much harder because you have to engage somebody just by speaking. And I find it more fun. I find it more interesting. I find it more exhilarating to be able to tell a story that way than to say a few words and then sing a song. And
Where everybody's like, oh yeah, I like this. I like this.
Yes, and you get the claps after every song and everybody's whistling and stuff. And I'm like, that just kills the story because it makes it not believable anymore because there's that applause in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's like a stream of, the play is like a stream of consciousness, huh? It's just like from one thing to the next. I don't know why I didn't look at it like that, but that's really kind of opening my mind up to plays. The last play I saw was probably The Nutcracker, maybe? Like that was in grade school. You know what I mean? I don't even know if that's a play even.
It's not a play.
It's not?
It's a ballet.
It's a ballet.
Yes.
Okay, see, that just goes to show how much I know. I don't know anything about plays. I've seen Lawrence Fishburne, or Fishbaum? Fishburne. Lawrence Fishburne. He did this one scene with who was supposed to be his child, and it was basically like a father teaching a son some type of moral lesson, and it was so captivating. It was like, everybody was hanging on a thread, you know what I mean? I was hanging on a thread, but I was watching YouTube, and I was just I was like, damn, like I wonder what that'd be like to watch a whole play, and so I'm understanding it a little bit more. It's really, really cool. What do you improv? Can you improv? Have you improv?
I do improv. It's not my favorite thing in the world to do.
No.
Because it gives me a lot of anxiety. I'm not bad at it. It just, I tiptoe around it as much as I can because it's a lot of hard work. Improving is really hard, for me at least, because you have to create circumstance really fast. You have to create a character. You have to create relationships, literally, in the snap of a finger. And so I don't like doing that because I think too hard about it and I think too deeply about it. So it stresses me out.
Is there improv spots out here in Kansas City, do you know? Have you I know you don't do it, but have you gone to watch improv anywhere?
I went to the KC Improv a few times.
Oh, KC Improv, gotcha.
But that's no longer in the spot where it is. I don't know if it shut down. But I don't see a lot of improv in Kansas City anymore. That could just be the circles that I'm in. I don't know anything about the people doing improv, but at this moment, I'm not sure where any improv is.
Okay. Now, where is Oliver? Where's that play at?
The Metropolitan Ensemble Theater.
Metropolitan Ensemble Theater.
Yes, it is at the Old Warwick Theater, and it's on Main and it's on Main Street. But yeah, that's where I'm doing it.
Excellent. And how many shows are you gonna do?
To be honest, I have no clue. It plays from the 20th through the 30th. So, maybe 10 shows, 11 shows, something like that.
Okay. And it's only one a night?
Sometimes one a night, sometimes we have a matinee and then one in the evenings.
Okay.
Yes.
So matinee and one in the evenings, meaning two?
Like on a Saturday we'll have 2 shows, and on a Sunday we'll have a show as a matinee but no night show, that type of thing.
Man, that's work.
Yeah.
Day after day after day, you gotta hit it 100% every time.
Yes.
I'm sure by the end, correct me if I'm wrong, is it by the end, by that last Sunday matinee, that Saturday night, are you primed and fresh, or are you like burnt out?
Not burnt out, more sad than anything, because you have to put your character away, like taking a puppet off your hand and placing it on the thing and never touching it again.
Wow.
But yeah, by the end of it, you're super polished. Actually, you're more loose about things because you're living as this character kind of comfortably. But I'd say by opening night, that's when things are super. Everybody's doing exactly what we've rehearsed and all of that. But then because if this was New York, you do 12 shows a week in New York.
Okay.
And your contract goes for 6 months. So that's 12 shows a week, or 9 shows. It's 12 shows a week for 6 months. That's a lot of performing to do the same show.
Every week?
Every single week, no break.
Oh my God.
Yes. So, that would, for me, be nice. But also at the same time, I think about that and I'm like, I never want to do that. That's so much. I have a friend that she was on Broadway and she just had to. She went back home. She was like, I don't want to do this. She's like, this is boring me. Like, she's like, it's stressing me out. It hurts my body. I want to be done with it. And so she took leave for like 2 months, then went back. So.
Oh, so she went back.
Yes.
Okay, just need a break.
Yes.
Yeah, I can understand that. Sounds like a lot of work for 6 months in a row. And I mean, how could you not get burnt out? To be honest.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
So you went to New York. What'd you go to New York for?
To perform. At the time, I was in the union.
Okay.
Cool. I had worked with a group called Broadway Artists Alliance. So, and they introduced me to. I had an agent, and then I had a manager as well. And so I was hoping, since I had both an agent and a manager, like within the first week that I moved to New York, that I'd be cast, but my type became an issue because I wasn't getting called back for anything. When I was 19, I got really close to being in a Broadway show, really close. But that's because it fit my type, because it was supposed to be a young black man. But while I was there were no roles for me there. And I just kind of got burnt out I worked at Hooters on Broadway, washing dishes and stuff like that. And, but I just got burnt out and I was like, I want to come home. Like, I like New York and everything, but I just want to be in a show. I want to do stuff and I can do that here. I can't do that in New York as often as I'd like, so.
That's really, well, it sucks first and foremost, but the reason you said it's tough to find a type for you, it feels like a lot of Broadway shows, a lot of shows in general have a lot of history behind them. They've been long-running shows, you know, so they are what they are and they're a classic because they're a classic. But is there do you find it necessary to switch up the cadence of these Broadway shows or the Kansas City shows and like throw in freshness, more 2021 type vibe show versus, a 60s show?
There's not really a lot of 60 shows, not on Broadway.
Okay.
Broadway, the turnover's pretty quick. Because
what do you mean?
it means that like a show will go on, if there's not a big enough audience for it, it'll go out pretty quickly.
Got you.
Like 3 months is kind of, sometimes a show will only be there for 3, 6, 9 months.
Okay.
And then it comes to the next show. So what they do is they basically auction off shows. So whichever one has the most producers behind it, whichever one has the best production plan, they get put closer to the top of the list because there's only a certain amount of theaters. So when one show leaves, if you have the producers and the right people to do it, then they will accept your show into the next one. I was choreographing a show that was on the list, but it was very low on the list, but it made the list. But because we didn't have producers and everything, then we lost the rights to, it was Panic at the Disco, the musical.
Really?
Yeah.
So interesting.
But, Yeah, so they do have cutting edge stuff a lot. They try to do cutting edge stuff here in KC,
Okay.
but it's just tough to get the rights for the right type of show. And we don't do a lot of Broadway musicals here in town because we don't have big enough stages. It costs a lot of money to have a large ensemble and a cast. Really, the only theaters that do ensembles are the KC Rep and Starlight. Everybody else keeps it to like a cast of like no more than 10.
Okay.
So
Wow.
that's
That's pretty
usually,
small.
yeah, it's small. Big shows have like a cast from 15 to 20 depending on which show. Back in the day, it used to be like 30, 40. You had a huge ensemble with big dance numbers. Now everything is shrunken down a little bit.
Is that just because of the pure sheer cost of running a play?
It's
Interesting.
expensive. It's very expensive because you've got to pay costumes, you've got to pay for set, you've got to pay for lights, you've got to pay for all of these subcontractors, including actors, technicians, musicians, your artistic team. Everything is set super expensive. All the costumes are super expensive. All the backdrops are super expensive. Like, backdrop for my high school was like $2,000 just for a high school to have a backdrop on it.
Wow.
And you know, it's not a huge stage or anything, but yeah, it's $2,000 just and you know, I think it took $10,000 in order to produce a musical at my school.
Wow.
Yeah.
How does a play like Oliver, how do they get funding?
By backers.
Okay.
They do a lot of fundraising and they ask for patrons, and they find people that believe in the theater and give it money so that it can grow and flourish. But since it's also a business, they get some help as well, as long as they're still making money.
Okay.
But it's very expensive to have your own theater in KC. A lot of people try, but there's not a lot of places that have their own theater. Sometimes some theaters go work in different theaters, but mostly there's only a few actual theaters in Kansas City.
Got you. Yeah, I can only name the Starlight. I guess the Metropolitan. Yeah, I just learned about that one. My question. So now that I understand that you get a lot of money from patrons and donations, is that the same kind of thing, or is a patron different from a donation type thing?
It's what do you call them? Not a sponsor,
Not an investor, huh?
they're investors, but what do they call them? There's a lot of different names for them, but it's just people that they donate money, maybe annually, maybe just like one big donation.
Gotcha.
It depends. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but yeah.
So, why do you think? What is your case to tell Kansas City why people should care about the theater and the arts?
Anytime that the arts has been taken away from a society, the society begins to crumble. The arts are important. To see art is like seeing God because it's complete creation, it's imagination, it's creativity, it's all of that stuff all kind of molded together. And reason why you should see things in Kansas City is that Kansas City is one of the top art places in the US. When Google first put out like arts places, like when you Google art cities in the US, Kansas City was the first one to pop up. So having like the Kaufman Center, having Starlight, having the KC Rep, having all of these theaters and then all of this art, it's really good for the economy here. So you want to add to the economy, you want to help boost the economy, you go see art, you go to the museum, you go see that stuff, and it does really good for your city.
Great.
Great. Yeah. Well, be more ventures. I mean, that's the whole goal of what I'm doing here, trying to anyway, is develop local economies and develop communities economically, socially, and racially, just improving in all aspects and making Kansas City a great place to live. Like, I think it is already, but I think there's so much more that could be worked on. That, you know, by doing this and helping people understand why going and seeing Oliver is a good idea, why it benefits, you know, not only you, but your neighbor.
Yeah.
I think it's important. And that's interesting. You said it's like seeing God. That's a really, really deep, dramatic statement. Is that pure? I mean, not pure, but is that a little bit of hyperbole in it? Like, or are you being completely serious in that it's like meeting, you know, interacting with God or something like that?
I mean, it's like seeing when art really touches you, when it makes you think, when you get perplexed by it, when you remember it as an image when you're going to bed, that type of thing. It's like the same thing as standing outside on a ledge and looking out into the ocean and seeing a really beautiful sunset. What you're seeing is creation when you look out into nature and just look at things, but also within art, it's basically the same thing. Nature, of course, comes before art, but art is nature to human beings. So, yeah.
Wow, that's profound. That's really good. If that don't make you go see fucking Oliver right now, I don't know what will. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. It's like, what's that saying? Like, does life imitate art, or does art imitate life? Type thing. It's like chicken or the egg thing. You know, you've heard of that phrase. I think about that often. Not often, but you know, from time to time, that question will pop back up in my life, and I'm like, to this day, I still don't know. You know, I don't know if there is a right answer either, but that's kind of what that reminds me of. You know, you say something sticks in your head, and like that's that Lawrence Fishburne scene. Is like, I just remember it. You know, whether I needed to hear it at that moment in my life, and so it stuck with me, or it was just so deeply profound across the board, just as a generality, that it stuck with me. It did, and it got me, at the very least, curious about what it's like to be in that auditorium, watching it live. So, and the fact that it just boosts economy. I mean, why wouldn't you? Can't really say you're about, you know, supporting your neighbors or supporting local without doing things like that, you know.
Yeah, I was like, buy local, and the theaters in your city that's buying local, that's helping. And it's a lot of money that the arts have that they bring to Kansas City. I used to know the number of it, but it's a nice percentage of the amount of capital that's made that gets back put into the economy. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great to know. Beautiful.
So you have got this grant. I just saw you post on Facebook about the grant for Crying Out Loud. This is your play,
yes.
Right? So tell the people how you went about getting this grant. How did you find it? What does it entail, and what's the premise?
So for writing grants are just like any business can go out, or any individual can go out, and I'm not sure if it's any business, but projects can go out and ask for grants, which is money that a not-for-profit or a business gives you in order to work on something where that theater can get something back for it.
Okay.
Because they'll ask, like, exactly what are you spending your money on, and how are you going to make that money back? It's not really like you have to pay us this money back or you won't get it. It's just like, we're giving you money, we want there to be more money made than what we give.
Fair enough.
But it's a whole application process. I'm not sure how many people sent in things, but 4 people were chosen. And they ask you questions like, in this many words, describe what your show's about. In this many words, describe what the meaning or the message is going to be. It's like any other application for really a lot of different things. It's just that the money is the hardest part, at least for me. It's like trying to decide how much can I spend on costumes, how much can I spend on the set, how much can I spend on this and that. But yeah, I mean, it's not easy, but it's possible. It's totally possible.
Do you have fun? Like, I know it's a lot of work, but I speak from the perspective of when I am challenged at my hardest is when, maybe not in that moment I'm having the most fun, but as I'm looking back on it, I realize I had the most fun. I'm using the most potential I have in me to solve that problem or that, beat that challenge. Do you find it fun, or for lack of a better word, or maybe challenging is a better word, figure out where the money's going to go, writing the script, finding the right people for what you have in your head? Do you find that fun?
Yes, and it's also very stressful because there's only so much that you have control over. You have control over your preparation for the show, but you don't have control over who auditions for your show. So you might write something out, but then have to switch things around because you didn't get the people that you needed in order to do the show. Now, I'm not a religious man, but I am a spiritual man, and I do think that there is a higher power, and I think that the higher power provides when it is necessary. So I'm believing that something good will come out of this, that people will be interested in auditioning for it because of what the subject matter is. But yeah, I already forgot what your question was.
I'm just curious. It sounds like, I think you already answered it, but like, it's fun and stressful. It's like a little bit of both.
It's fun and stressful. Like when I figure something out, like, oh my gosh, that's a good idea. There is a lot of reward that comes with that. Like, oh my gosh, that could be so cool. But just like not knowing where the space is exactly, because not until you apply, you don't know exactly what theater you're going to be performing in.
Gotcha.
Just like little things like that, you have to just be knowledgeable of, and that's pretty stressful.
Yeah. Do you know what theater are you in? Are you still in?
I won't know until after the application process.
Oh my gosh! I thought you already got thought it's already done.
I got the sponsorship, but I still have to apply for the Fringe Festival, and then they pay for my theater space after I apply.
Got you.
Yeah.
So is it still even a sure thing? Like, do you have the spot? All you need to do is the application, or is there still a chance you might not get it?
I'll get it regardless. Because the application process is really just like, do you have a show? Do you have the money to produce a show? Do you have a script? Do you have this? Do you have that? And as long as I have all that, I'm good.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
What is For Crying Out Loud?
It's about grief and about the process of grief, because it's not taught, especially in America. Nobody's taught how to grieve, which is one of the most important things to teach people, is how to grieve, because we will all grieve at some point in time. And so this is about, in its most simple term, in the most simple way, like, how does one grieve? How does one get through the 5 stages of grief, and what are the 5 stages of grief, and are they something that everybody goes through or some people go through? It just depends. And so this is about kind of taking a hodgepodge of ideas and of different stories and messages and relaying them all into one area. So it's just about grieving and it's not all like sad and crying and things like that. There's also lots of humor and lots of stylistic, fun, exciting movement, and yes, I'm excited.
That's really, really interesting. Grief. Have you had a problem with grief growing up?
Yes. My brother passed away 7 years ago from cancer, and so I'm still dealing with that. The show's actually helping me work through a lot of that.
I love that.
But like, it affected me really bad. He was only 2 years older than I was, and it was a really rare form of cancer. And I left school because of it. Like, I was in college. Like, it was just all kind of a huge hot mess. And it just kind of, I don't know, it sucked. So, so this is about processing what I went through in order to help other people process what they might go through.
Yeah.
Because we'll all lose our parents, we'll all lose siblings, we'll all leave people behind when we die, and they'll grieve for us. Or grieve over us. So this is just kind of a way to say, hey, it's okay. Everything's gonna be okay. You'll work your way through this. This is not something that is ever gonna go away. There's always gonna be some hurt that's there.
Always.
Some space that will never be filled again. But you just build around that, and you build beautiful things around those holes that you find in your heart, and you make something more beautiful from it.
Man, I love that. I really, really love that. Man, that was heavy. That was really heavy, man. Took me through something just then. Well, I don't even know what to say. I really started thinking about stuff. I just kind of like got lost, man. Well, that's really awesome that you're able to find an outlet and help understand a little bit more. I had definitely a tough time with grief myself. 17 years old I was, probably. I was living with my grandma and my uncle and my mom. We all lived with my grandma. My grandma passed from brain cancer. And then 2 months later, my uncle, who was, he was the closest thing I guess I had to a father figure at that time in my life. And he he didn't catch it, he had a stroke and lost every part of his body, like on his left side. He just couldn't control it anymore. Mm-hmm. And within 2 months, I lost these two pivotal role models, adults in my life. And as a young kid, I just didn't know what the hell to do about that. We weren't really taught or equipped with the knowledge to deal with that as kids, and they definitely didn't teach it in school. I can't think of one time where grief was ever brought up. Yeah. So you're feeling that, you're coming in and stepping in and filling that void and becoming a teacher of, self, really, and life in general. That's amazing. And I found myself being very confused, I guess. I was mad and I was sad. I was mainly angry, which is why I got into martial arts. I got in a fight with this kid, and he started punching me. I was beating the shit out of him, standing up, pop, pop, pop. He was a big guy, and so he just picked me up and threw me to the ground after he couldn't do anything standing up. And he was just punching me. And I'm just like sitting there looking at him, like smiling, like loving it. Because for whatever reason, looking back, maybe I needed to feel something, anything. I was doing a lot of, substances I should not have been to deal with that pain, which I think is I think it's normal just because we're not equipped with the proper ways to deal with pain, emotionally or physically, mentally. And so, everybody just goes to drugs.
Substance abuse.
It's easy. It's very easy. But, maybe I felt something, and that was why I got into combat. It made me feel something. And But the beautiful thing from that is I haven't stepped back. You know, I love combat. I love martial arts because that is an art in itself. That's my art.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Just the way bodies move and like it's very close to dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And I love to dance. You know, so it kind of just made sense that from dancing I love martial arts, right? But art is really, it's such a simple word, art. Like you go to art class in school and stuff, but really it's a deep, I don't know if concept is the right word, but it's deep. It helps you understand yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Has doing plays and writing scripts, has that helped you understand yourself in a sense?
Yeah, I also paint and
Okay.
writing a novel and writing a play, writing a screenplay, and all of this together is helping me kind of figure out a lot. You can tell within my paintings that, like, what type of mood I was in when I painted it. Just kind of like being, I don't know how to describe it. Yes, being in plays, writing, painting, all of these things, yes, they've helped me figure out who I am and be more.
Be more.
Yeah.
I got you. Did it take you a second to get that one?
Yes.
That's funny, man. That's really funny. Okay, so I kind of want to pivot now. Guys, so we were eating Smokehouse BBQ in Zona Rosa. There's 3 locations. I went to the one in Zona. They got good beans. I'm loving the burnt ends. The pulled pork was great. Love the pulled pork. I love pulled pork almost. It's hard for me not to like pulled pork, but it was very good. If you want to give them a shout, go buy some food from them. Do that. Tell them Alex over at Be More Ventures sent you. But Ace, if you don't mind, I kind of want to get into a little bit more personal and a little bit more, just a little bit more personal. I want to know your perspective on life as you grew up and just kind of how you see the world, in a sense. So I guess, you know, here in Kansas City, I think there's a lot of people that claim they are one way, but kind of act another way. My age, anyway, feels to be. So first and foremost, I just want to get this straight. You're a demi boy.
Yes.
Is that the correct term?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you explain to people who have no idea what that is, what it is? Because when you told me, that was the very first time I'd ever heard of it.
It is a subgroup of trans,
Okay.
being transgendered, but it is under the non-binary side of transgender.
Okay.
So it's under that umbrella. Demi-boy basically means that I identify mostly as male, but I also identify as female
Okay.
at the same time. So it's a mix between the two. So I'm assigned male at birth, but there's a lot of aspects of me that are female. So it's just kind of, it's a mix.
It's a mix.
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm learning a lot about that, the gender, I don't know how you would say it. I'm learning a lot about sexuality and gender lately. That's kind of been, just for whatever reason, it's kind of just what I've been learning about. You know, it's something I don't know. I love learning. And so things that happen, I like to learn about. And this seems to be a subject that I was completely ignorant of. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And I didn't care to know. But I've changed my scope on that. So, I mean, I don't know what that's like. I can only imagine what it's like. When you were growing up, how did you recognize that in yourself? That you were demi-boy?
I didn't.
You didn't?
No. I come from a religious family. Not so much anymore, but religious, like we all still identify as Christians, except for my oldest brother, and I'm kind of on the ledge. but we were raised very Christian, and so I didn't know anything about my gender identity until I became an adult. And I was like, oh, that sounds just like me.
Really?
Yeah.
What about growing up? Did you think you were different when you were a kid growing up?
I knew I was different. I just didn't know what it was. Why things just weren't matching up. I couldn't figure it out.
Okay.
But I did know I was different, but I didn't know
What it was.
Yeah.
What, if you don't mind, what made you feel like you knew you were different? Like, how did you recognize that?
Just kind of everything, like noticing what the boys liked and what the girls liked and which side I leaned towards when it came to stuff like that. The colors that I liked, the toys I wanted to play with, the clothes that I wanted to wear, all of it, was very different than what the other little boys wanted. They mostly aligned with what the girls wanted. But a black man needs to be this, a black man needs to act like that, a black man needs to do this, a black man needs to do that. And so that was all kind of not even on the table, like to figure out like what to do. I always wanted an easy bake oven growing up, but I never got one because boys don't use easy bake ovens.
Yeah, it's really, really archaic.
Yeah.
Did you got one?
An easy bake oven? No.
Maybe one day you pick up.
One day. Get one off Amazon.
There you go, $25. I actually don't know, but I just got Prime.
Okay.
I love it, dude. I love it.
I'm paying for Prime right now and I haven't used it once.
How long have you been paying for it?
Like a month. Just like a month because I was going to get some blazers for work and then I kind of gave up on that.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about jobs, and he recently left his job, and we were talking about 2 weeks, and I was telling them like I don't do 2 weeks. Like when I'm done, I'm done. I'll put in 2 weeks. I will. I have before too, but I'm just like you with that night, Ace. When I'm done, I'm done. I'm sorry. I'm out of here.
Can't do this anymore. I'm tired. This is exhausting. And, like, I don't know. I want to run my own business.
Yeah.
I'd much rather do that. Like, I'm never going to, like, quit a musical halfway through it. But, will I quit doing complete bullcrap?
No. Without a thought after.
I will. And which isn't fair. Like the best thing about putting in 2 weeks is that it gives them enough time to change schedules and things like that. But they made the schedules like 5 days before you actually had to work that schedule. So I was like, oh, you don't need 2 weeks. Because you don't put things 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
So everything was kind of topsy-turvy, so I don't feel bad.
No, you shouldn't. You should. I mean, you take care of yourself first. Every company, from more or less, will be just fine. You know what I mean? They can find something.
Corporate.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it took me a few years to like really stop getting twisted about, I used to be very loyal to any company I worked for because I chose to be with that company. So I identified myself with this company. And it would be like, I would have a hard time being like, okay, I'm just going to leave. But then over time, it's like, I'm so replaceable. These guys are only cool with me because I'm here. You know what I mean? It's just how we have to be, unless we just absolutely hate each other. But it's like, you'll be fine. I'll be fine. This is not right for me. Let's just call a spade and get out of here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do not. I'm not with. More and more, the more I grow up, I'm just like, corporations, man. They just don't give a fuck.
Right.
Just fine. I get it, but like, don't expect me to give a fuck if you really don't give a fuck.
Right.
You know?
And just kind of what they expected out of me, like attire. What I do in art, I never have to wear a black jacket, like a suit jacket. I never have to wear black slacks. I never have to do any of that. It's not a necessity. If I dress nice, I dress nice in what I have. I never wear black slacks for anything that I wear. And so having to work in a place where you had to wear a certain color, you had to do this, I was just like, I don't want to spend any money on it. If you really want me to have a black blazer, then buy me a black blazer. If you really, because you don't pay me enough for me to spend a single cent on anything. That's what I hate about corporate stuff, or when you just have to like dress super nice for something. I'm like, why? This is so stupid.
Yeah, it's really all image. It's really all to maintain an image.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, which I understand, but I mean, we could throw a little bit of blues in there from time to time. You know what I mean? Let's throw a little bit of blues, a little bit of reds. We'll be all right.
Right.
You know, I still know how to talk to you like a professional, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
I said all that to say, I'm going to get a painting one day, or a picture, and it's going to say, I have no problem with quitting. It's going to be, with the hyphen, Alex Gonzalez.
Okay.
Because I said this to my buddy one day, we were talking, and I just was telling him about how often I've changed jobs. And I was like, you know, it was Luke, he was my first guest on this podcast. I was like, I have no problem with quitting. You know, you hear all these motivational people and like all these guys like trying to, you know, light a fire under your ass. Yeah, never quit, keep going. No, I have no problem with it. I'll quit today if I have to.
Right.
Because I know it's good for me.
Yeah.
Like I know deep innately that this is not right for me.
Right.
And I've just been following that heart feeling, and it's got me here. And I love doing this right here with you. Like I learned so much about the arts in this 1 hour conversation with you than I have in my entire life. Which is like kind of sad, but you know, it is what it is. That's why I'm trying to do this thing for other people, you know, to learn the same thing I'm learning.
Yeah, I mean, if it were my show and now we're talking to you about martial arts, you'd be able to teach me a world of stuff that I didn't know about. So, yeah.
Good point, because I want to tell you the entire history of martial arts right now.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Oh. I was ready for it.
I don't know.
I was like, okay, you do what you want. It's your show.
No, the earliest I know is samurai, which are badasses. Maybe ninjas. I don't know which goes before, but dude, so badass. Samurai with the swords, man.
I'm not sure if they were the first martial artists.
Maybe not.
They could have been, but I'm sure martial arts went way older. But I don't know anything about martial arts.
That's the earliest I know. That's the earliest I can reference is the samurai or the ninja. Like I said, I don't know which came before, but you know, that was back in ancient China, ancient Japan. That part of me, I'm actually not 100% sure. I don't want to say the wrong thing, wrong information. It looked like an asshole. But I got a question to Ace.
Yeah.
What would you say, it's a two-parter. What would you say to the kids growing up that are like yourself, like yourself growing up? What would you say to them?
Don't care so much about what other people think about you. Because it's not important. Just when you say things like be yourself, that's a lot harder to figure out, like who yourself is. Like I'm still figuring out who I am. So how would you expect a 13-year-old to like be themselves? But it's pretty simple. Like if you're in the moment, you're living. It's just like acting. If you're living in the moment, exactly where you are in the present, not thinking so hard about the future and not looking so far in the past that it's okay. It's like driving. if you start worrying too much about what's going to happen before, you get stuck in this world of like, you don't know what's going to happen on the road right in front of you.
Yeah.
But if you continue to look into the rear view mirror, you don't see what's happening in front of you. Like, you can just take a glance up to the rear view mirror so that you can see what's going on behind you. But you don't look at it for a long time because then now you don't know where you're going. You're not living in the present. So, in order to know who you are, it's going to come out naturally if you're living in the present. If, of course, you're living in a healthy household, a healthy situation. But that's usually not the case. So, just, I don't know. I don't even know how to answer that question.
Yeah.
Because it's different for everybody. It's a different experience.
But generally, you do agree, not agree, but generally you stand by saying, don't care what other people think, don't put so much value onto other people's opinions of
Yeah,
yourself.
carry yourself strong in who you are and have good manners and things like that. Be kind. But when it comes to what other people think about what you're wearing, like how you speak, how you carry yourself, your disposition, as long as you're being a good, kind, and loving person, who cares about anything else?
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. Just be a good person.
Yeah.
You say, I've heard you say a few times now about the being in the present. How do you tell somebody to be in the present? How do you, I would say meditate. That's how I learned to be in the present. How would you tell a child, how would you teach them to be in the present?
Focus on your breathing.
Focus on breath.
Yes, because when you focus on your breathing, you are automatically in the present because you're not thinking about anything else. You're just thinking about what's giving you life and then blowing out what you don't need.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you tell a child to focus on their breathing, then they'll be, it does a world of difference for their mental health if they know how to breathe right, and to focus on their breathing. Children don't respond well when you talk down to them, so you can use something like saying, hey, focus on your breath. Think about the bad things that happen and breathe in and out, blow all that stuff out, blow all of the bad things out, all of the bad energy, and they'll pick it up in their minds. They'll understand that you're breathing in, breathing out the bad. Or is it the other way around?
Exhale. Inhale the best, exhale the stress. That's
Yes.
what I say.
Okay, yeah. I was trying to think of what the Buddhists think, but I'm pretty sure that's the same thing.
Yeah, get it. All love in. All the bad shit, let it out.
Yes.
Let it go. It's just
Yeah,
gonna like
right.
keep you tense over time.
Exactly. And you're getting oxygen to your brain, you're getting oxygen to your body, like stay hydrated. Your mental health is really important, your mental intelligence, your emotional intelligence, they're all important, and those are a lot of the times learned at a younger age from neurotypical people. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Last question I got for you.
Okay.
What would you say, how does our Kansas City youth get involved in the arts? You got young aspiring thespians. How do they get going?
Well, I'm from Johnson County,
Okay.
and so there's a lot of avenues for young people to do theater there. To be completely honest, I have no clue about how it is. There's Kansas City Young Audiences. A lot of the theaters in town have summer camps to do. There's a few camps for like teenagers to do a show, like with Theater for Young America. But if there's a show where they need some teens, audition for it. That's kind of what my app is about. It's about like finding out where the auditions are and finding out how to apply for them and all of that goodness.
let's cut this out.
Okay. So really just look it up. You'll find something. What I'm hoping to be able to do is to, at some point, have my own youth theater that does legit stuff as well.
Okay.
Here in town, I have a space that I want, 3501 Armour, Broadway.
Really? Cool.
Yeah, it's right in front of where my apartment complex is. And I'm like, I want to start a theater and art gallery right there. But I want more avenues for young people to be able to find the arts. And it could be something like woodworking, like what Ian does. Just that's art, like just a place where young people can have a maker space where they can learn how to do things at any age. I think that's all super important. Get your mind off of what you're doing at that point. It's a healthy avenue to get that out.
I agree entirely. I agree 100%.
Mi amigos, you would not believe this. I finished the entire recording. We wrapped it up, and I had no audio, so that's why the audio sounds so bad. And also, one of my cameras pooped out after 45 minutes. So I didn't get everything how I wanted to get it, but that's okay. The only thing we missed was the plug. So Ace wants y'all to know that Oliver, his screenplay he's going to be playing in, is going to be going on January 20th through the 30th at the Metropolitan Ensemble Theater. And if you want to follow them, go ahead and follow them on Instagram, Facebook. And for crying out loud, his screenplay, that's his creation, is going to be going on the Fringe Festival in 2022, sometime in 2022. We'll keep you updated as the time gets closer. We'll stay up to date with Ace and all he's got going on throughout the months. If you want to follow along with that, check out Fringe Festival, Facebook, Instagram. Again, it's going to be in 2022. And this play is called For Crying Out Loud. If you want to support Be More Ventures, go ahead and check us out on BeMoreVentures.org and grab yourself a BMKC.Hoodie or a BMV.Tee. We got plenty of other things coming on in the future, but it's a slow process, takes time. And last but not least, we got content on there. We got videos that are linked from, we got our Twitter page that is linked directly to the website. So as we update Twitter, it updates the website. Plenty of different videos going all the way from improving your mental health to ideal city planning to transphobia. All these different things, are all these videos and articles shared on there are with the intent to help you learn, help us learn a little bit more on how to be more for our community. That's the whole idea behind it. And all of our YouTube videos are there as well. So if you want to check that out, go ahead and check it out. Explore. We got plenty of other stuff coming up, like I said, and it's just a matter of time before it really gets going into something, into a wave of good change for the community. So thanks for tuning in. Next week we got Sam 5, who is a coder. He's my web developer. He created the website, so we're gonna have him on and have a good conversation. Hope to see y'all.